Well, that's another week, Whitey.
Yeah, they're running along, Jack, but I've got a lot of work to do because I think these are two great ones today.
Hi, how are you? You're just in time for Top Star Bowling. I'm Jack Buck. Won't you join Whitey Harris and me inside here at the Marlboro Lanes? Come on, we're going to have some fun. Hi, it's time for another week of Top Star Bowling from the Marlboro Lanes in the village of Marlboro, just southwest of the city of St. Louis, the gateway to the west. I'm Jack Buck. I'll be introducing Whitey Harris after a while, and in just a moment, introducing the two bowlers on this show, one of whom is back for the third time. Before bringing the two bowlers up here, let me tell you a bit about the program. We have a King of the Hill format with the winner staying around to take on another competitor. $1,000 for the winner, $500 for the loser. In addition, this particular show gives these two bowlers a last crack at the high series of 705 held by Ray Bluth and the high game held by Ray Bluth of 268. It involves $2,500 in prize money presented by the King Louis shirt people, $1,500 for the high series and $1,000 for the high game. So they're shooting at plenty, and let's meet them right now. First of all, and back for his third week, Glenn Allison. Good to see you.
Thank you, Jack. It's sure nice being back.
I want you to forget all about the extra $2,500.
I just hope I can win.
Just hopes he can win, because then the money will take care of itself. His challenger is a very formidable opponent, Al Thompson. Al, good to see you again.
Fine, glad to be here, Jack.
We haven't had too many opportunities in the past to visit with one another. Perhaps you'll be around for a while.
Well, I hope so. I'm going to try to get some of Glenn's money today.
Very best to you. The handshake, and away we'll go. Glenn Allison and Al Thompson. It is a three-game match. Al Thompson gets us off and running here, and as soon as he takes care of the first delivery, why, we'll talk about the fellow seated alongside. And he carries a little bit high, but the 7-10 drop for him, so Al Thompson starts with a strike. Alongside me is Jerome Whitey Harris, a member of the Brunswick Advisory Staff of Champions. Whitey, a fine bowler in his own right, well known in bowling circles, and you'll enjoy his comments as we go along. Right now it's Glenn Allison up on 22, trying to match the strike thrown at him by the challenger. And the 10-pin stymies him at the outset. Glenn Allison has taken care of a couple of worthwhile foes, Whitey.
He certainly has, Jack, and in the scores that he has bowled, it's been pretty rough to beat him when you, like you commented on the introduction, 692 and 682. Those are rough scores to take a beat.
Going for the 10-pin, and he gets his mark in the first frame. I'd like to mention at this point that Top Star Bowling Series is sanctioned by the American Bowling Congress. The lanes here at Marlboro are certified by the ABC. Normal conditions, not primed to high scoring, the very same sort of conditions you would have when you went bowling at your favorite Brunswick house. See how easy it is? So he very well could have the double. He left the 10-pin over on 22, so a spare and a strike, and now Al Thompson with a chance to go out in front at the very outset. And how important that is, Whitey.
Well, definitely, and I think Glenn's starting to like this home-cooked meals that he's getting here. You know, he's one of those pros that travels all over the country, Jack.
But he's very happy to stay off the road and compete here. Looked like he had the good angle, but left the 4-pin.
That's why I looked at you, and did you see? That's the first time in this series that we saw a bowler shoot so far to the right. He was between the first and second arrow. That's why I looked kind of startled there. And
there's his spare. I'm trying to think of who else it was. Was it Don Ellis who tried to play them way out there and didn't succeed?
I think that he explained to us later, Jack, that he had a tendency when he plays that far out to the right, he points the ball up at the nose, but it looked like Al didn't have any trouble at all because that was a good, solid hit.
Really lays that down beautifully, doesn't he? He shakes his head no, and he gets away, so he's happy to have only the 7-pin. As he delivered the ball, he was shaking his head no. He knew that he had goofed. And there was the 7-10, but only momentarily. Now he has the spare to shoot at. Al Thompson, Pikeville, Kentucky. Lives in Cleveland now. Married, 3 children. He's a member of the Brunswick advisory staff of bowling champions. He didn't walk away from that foul line very quickly after letting that one go.
I think we might have, Jack, one of these bowlers that Al starts striking. Looks like he might be one of these runners, too, that goes all over the approach.
Glenn Allison looking for a double. He has the opportunity now to go out in front. Important to go out in front because you know they're going to get some bad breaks somewhere along the line. There's his double. Glenn was born in Whittier, California. Oftentimes on TV, it's difficult to judge the size of these performers. Glenn is rather slight, 5'7", 150 pounds.
Say, you haven't commented yet. There's that young lady's here again.
Is she?
Is she? No, Isbell, not is she.
There's 3 in a row. Yeah, that's her name, I recall. She gets that same location all the time. She's got quite a wardrobe, too. Al Thompson in the 4th frame with a spare up. Why, we pointed out that he's way outside, much more so than the bowlers we've had in the past, but he seems like he can carry on that line because of the way he's letting the ball go.
I think so, too, Jack. It always amazes me how these fellas, they're top pros, how they can figure out something like that, and then they go ahead and get the good results with it.
Yeah, he's a runner. He's a runner, all right.
He's a tiptoe runner.
Uh-huh. Does everything quietly. He lays that ball down with it. You hardly know he's let the ball go. You could hear a pin drop. Allison started with a spare, and remember, that was a 10-pin tap, and then 3 in a row. And another one. And so, Thompson has 59 through the 3rd with a double up. Glenn Allison has 20 through the 1st frame and a 4-bagger working. Now Allison bowling in the 6th frame, looking for 5. So he's left a 10-pin and now a 4-pin. He's shooting, remember, at the 705 high series of Ray Bluth in this particular 13-week segment. He's also shooting at the high game that Ray has of 268. There have been no opens in this match. We've had some great bowlers here and some fine bowling. Joe Joseph was along. Joe didn't do too well. Bill Lillard, Bob Chase. Bob won a couple. Steve Nagy, Ray Orff, Ray Bluth. Bluth held 4th for quite a while. Wayne Zahn, then Allison, who took care of Bluth and Fazio. Thompson's the newcomer. Nothing wrong with that line that he has, Whitey. He's right over that second arrow, a bit to the outside of the second arrow, and really driving in there.
This, and on the approach, Jack, he's standing to the right of left center. Most of these other fellas have been standing about 2 or 3 dots to the left. Back on that left lane there, he's right on that center dot on the approach.
That was 3 in a row for him. Now he'll try to match the 4-bagger, which Allison threw at him earlier. A little bit high, but he got it. He got that good action. He's quite a guy, this Thompson. He's, as you notice, a baby-faced guy. Get a kick out of him with his high voice. Glenn Allison trying to get back on a strike now. He has a spare up. Another 10-pin. On the same lane, 22. So he's left 2 10-pins and a 4-pin. Thompson has taken the lead right here with that 4-bagger. There have been no opens. And there's the spare. Glenn is well known all around the country because of the team travels in which he engaged. He's a product of the junior bowling program.
Jack, and when he was 14 years old, he had 177 average.
I'll be darned. He barely got to the head pin, and he leaves the 2-4-5-8. And the way things are shaping up, why, Mr. Thompson may be around for a while. Glenn has had a 793 series in the past. He continues to mark his third spare after getting 4 in a row. Now Al Thompson, who has a 4-bagger working. Boy, he's way outside. I think it was too far outside that time. Just put the ball down the wrong spot.
That's it, Jack. I think that's what'll happen when you are playing an angle like that, and he has to be so sharp of hitting around that second arrow, and he was further to the right that time.
You would think the way his ball is hooking that he'd want to be a little further inside, but he chooses to go out there, and it's done a lot of good so far. He covers both pins, as should be done. So there's a spare in the 8th frame for Al Thompson, 167 through the 7th, and only a 3-pin advantage.
Jack, we always try to bring over to the viewer to watch these fellas for some tips they can get, and we constantly refer to the follow-through. I think here's another example of just watching Thompson, how long he stays out there after he throws the ball with his right hand.
So he's lost the course here for just an instant. Leaves a 6-10. He's bowling now in the 9th frame. So Glenn Allison will have a chance to regain the lead which he had early. He wasn't too sure he was going to get it, evidently. But he did get it. In an exhibition one time, Glenn bowled 2 consecutive 300 games. He's had 13 300 games. There's the line. There's his strike. So that's his 5th strike of the game. He had 4 previously, and he put them together. So they each have 5 strikes, but Glenn has his in a more advantageous position in the 9th frame. Chance to pile up a few pins right now.
I think Jack, Glenn making that balk, that last pitch, he was just trying to get relaxed, Jack, and that's so important in this game.
Oh, another 10-pin. That's his 3rd 10-pin of the game. Boy, you never know in this sport of bowling, do you? That's what makes it so interesting. You lay the ball right where you want and throw it just as you want. And there sits the 10-pin, or the 8-10, or the 7. Trying to spare here in the 10th frame. 224 now if he hits. So Al Thompson can take the lead if he can pop a couple when he comes up. 220, Brooklyn. 224.
I noticed
Well,
Glenn coming back, Jack, and I don't know. I'm sure he's not getting signals from his wife, but he was mumbling something.
His wife is here, huh?
Yes.
Now Al Thompson needs 3. Doesn't really need him. He could still have the lead. There's 1. Now that gives him 205 through the 9th. So in the 9th, he's 1 pin ahead of Glenn Allison. He could go on to a 235 game and an 11-pin lead. carrying. That ball's doing a lot of work for him. He's going to be out in front when this first game is over. That ball really doing some work for him. He's had a couple that haven't been precisely in the pocket, but he's carried those strikes. So he knows what he's doing out here.
Jack, it looks like now as we get to this stage here, if you don't get 7 strikes a game, you're not going to win a game.
Al now has 7. He's looking for his 8th strike. We haven't had any opens in this first game. And he ends with 233. That's not a bad spot for that particular hit. 233. So we've got some real competition on our hands. At the end of the first game, it's Al Thompson 233, Glenn Allison 224. It's a 9-pin lead for Al Thompson, the challenger here on Top Star Bowling. At the end of the first game, you're watching 2 different styles with Al playing outside and Glenn more to the inside. A very interesting match to watch, and despite the scores of 233 and 224, both are going to have to do better if they want to top that high series of 705. Something else to look for as we get started our second game on Top Star Bowling. Well, it doesn't take long for these bowlers to realize when they have a foe who is able to hit that pocket with regularity. Glenn Allison knows that he has to continue along, do well, do better, in fact. And he starts by leaving the 3-pin and be shooting the spare. Both went through the first game without an open. You know, the saying is, put 2 bowlers together, they'll organize a league. Well, that's true, and even more true than that, they don't have to be bowlers. There are bowling leagues for every combination, including beginners. Church league, an office league, club league. See your bowling proprietor, and he'll help you out. Now Al Thompson, who had 7 strikes in the first game to 6 for Glenn Allison, up on 22. He knew it. And he leaves the 3-pin. He knew it when he let it go. Well, yeah, I'd say the one outstanding feature of his bowling is his squareness at the approach, during the approach, and at the foul line. He's completely squared away.
Yes, Jack, that's definitely, he is like a lot of the pros, they're stylists, and this is the only way you achieve that, Jack. That particular style is through constant practice.
I couldn't quite see it there as he went for the 3-pin and got it, giving each a spare in the first frame, but we can watch him here as Al moves over to 21. The body is not turned to the side as a lot of the bowlers, including a lot of the good bowlers, do. He's up there completely squared away.
And they always look down, Jack, where they're standing before they go into their approach.
He's carried a couple of those hits in a comparable spot previously, but he didn't get it this time, so he has 19 in the first frame. At the end of the first game was Al Thompson 233, Glenn Allison 224. Six-pin goes. I want to mention right here the Brunswick A2 automatic pin setters and the ball return in connection with it.
Yeah.
And that ball is back in a hurry, to the point where we've been able to have a lot of fun at the conclusion of some of the shows. Now the 10-pin. How many did he leave in that first game, Whitey?
Jack, he left 3 there, and also we're getting now when you get a match like that, these fellas don't open up at all. Both of them in the first game are completely clean, without any errors or splits.
In that first game, Glenn had 3 10-pins and a 4-pin. Now he leaves a 10-pin and spare, so they each spared. And Thompson still has the 9-pin advantage. Notice the choppy steps employed by Glenn Allison as he goes up there. He doesn't glide like a lot of the bowlers do. He's back in the groove. 2 spares and a strike. now the Clevelander, Al Thompson. We had Steve Nagy from Cleveland on Top Star Bowling previously. I don't think he expected to carry that 4 with that hit.
No, that ball from that angle, Jack, whereas a hook sometimes breaks in short, that just drives right on in and it will leave the 4-pin.
I mentioned Steve Nagy from Cleveland. Why do a lot of the people there claim him, but Steve now lives in Detroit, doesn't he?
Yes, well, Steve belongs to that group of bowlers, Jack. There's quite a few of them come out of Cleveland. You can run down the line like with Harry Smith and, well, right now, I mean, that's one of the ones we would be interested in because they are on the Brunswick advisory staff, and they've had some great bowlers out of the Cleveland area. But you're right, Steve is now out of Detroit.
Oh, he wanted that one, and he thought he was going to get it. When he lets that ball go and thinks he's done everything right, he springs into action. Instead of standing there at the foul line, he dances away.
I like that. Will you say that again?
What? And there's a spare, so Al having difficulty finding a strike here in the second game.
Jack, a lot of times we wonder about the pro wives, how they constantly, the husbands are on the tournament trail, but I noticed Sherry here, and one of the things that they do, these people, they're interested in bridge, and prior to the warm-up and everything else, in the last week or so, they're back there playing bridge in between the session.
That was Glenn Allison's wife at whom you were looking, and she has something to root about now as Glenn comes up with a double. And he has the lead now. He's bowling in the 5th frame.
Another thing about Glenn is the release of that ball, Jack. That ball actually rolls off of his fingers.
Gets an 8 count with that double that he had working, leaves a 2-8. And this one has been missed in the past.
It'll be interesting to see where he stands on the approach, Jack. He is standing to the right. To go directly at those 2 pins.
And he's got him. So he has 87 through the 4th with a spare up.
Jack, this will be a point, too. You mentioned about the Brunswick A2. With Al on this right lane, we can just see by the time he comes back, ready for his next ball, be able to see how that ball's back here.
There he is. He got the strike. I don't think he was quite sure of it, judging by his actions. And so Glenn Allison has 87 through the 4th with a spare up. Al Thompson has 77 through the 4th with a strike up. Allison has the lead by 1 pin at this moment. You're making everybody laugh. I hope he gets it straight. Will you stop making these people laugh when these bowlers are up there? A lot of money involved. What's the matter with you? You ever been in a bowling lane before?
How come you...
Glenn Allison now has a spare up, bowls in the 6th frame. That double gives Thompson the lead again. And a strike for Allison. This particular game is precisely even, and so Thompson still has that 9-pin lead.
Glenn also looks right at the foul line at the spot he's aiming at, Jack.
Looking for a double. Oh, another 10-pin. Boy, he's had a few.
You know what hurts about a 10-pin, Jack? Just like you got that one in the 2nd frame, and then you come up with doubles.
Changes the entire scoring around.
That changes the whole complexity of the game.
Oh. And a spare for Glenn Allison. Al Thompson has 77 through the 4th with a double up. Glenn Allison has 127 through the 6th with a spare. A very close match as Al Thompson is up on 22 and in the 7th frame looking for a three-bagger. He has 77 through the 4th with a double. Outside the second arrow and too thin, 2-4-5.
I think he knew he was too far out, Jack. He really whipped his hand through. This is something that a lot of the bowlers have that instinct that when they feel it's out a little further, they'll whip back in with it.
And he can't afford a miss here. Can't afford any opens. He failed to get his three-bagger. He covers him nicely. So Al has 124 through the 6th with a spare up. And so in this particular match, Glenn Allison in this game has a 3-pin lead, and so Al Thompson is ahead in the match by 6 pins. And where did that 8-pin come from? Where did that thing look like it was glued to the lane? Man, oh
I
man.
guess you're going to ask me to give an interpretation of that? Actually, you were right, Jack. It is glued to the lane. But really, I think this could be considered really the perfect tap when you do leave an 8-pin.
I mean, more so than a 10-pin.
Yes, that's correct.
He'll be talking about that one, whether he wins or loses. He was wondering if he could knock it down with the second ball. And he got it. So there's a spare in the 8th, and maybe Glenn Allison can take advantage of that and get a strike for himself in the 8th frame. Hit right here would give him a chance to go ahead in the match. He swept him off of there. Whenever they see an advantage like that, where these professional bowlers, even though they've been bearing down and concentrating to the utmost up until that time, where there's always a little extra that they can reach back for. And Glenn Allison came up with it that time. And now the 9th frame looking for a double. He hasn't had too many strikes. He's only had 4 in this game so far. Al Thompson has had only 2. On the nose. So no double as he leaves the 3-6. Now maybe that will serve as inspiration to Al Thompson when he bowls in the 9th frame.
Jack, in the past weeks, why, Glenn has been really playing that left lane fairly perfect, but today he seems to have a little problem of he's busted him in the nose about 3 or 4 times already.
Shooting at the 3-6 and he spares. We still have had no opens in this match. The second game was almost over. Glenn Allison ahead by a couple of pins in this one, and Al Thompson ahead by a couple of pins in the match. 9th frame. Out, up, in, 4-pin. So he's had only 2 strikes, and that's made the difference. That's the 3rd 4-pin that he has left in this game. Previously, he had left a 3 and a 6 and an 8. So we're going to have a very important roll-off in this game. Al didn't feel right. He really bearing down on those spares. He bears down as much on those single pins as he does going for the strike.
Well, I think, Jack, it must be understood that these fellas shooting for so much money would do that. Now, this naturally shouldn't be, a lot of your average bowlers shouldn't get in the habit of doing this because it would really delay your game.
On the nose, 3-6. So the door is open for Glenn Allison if he can strike in the 10th frame. The best Al Thompson can do is 200 on the nose. He rolled 233 in the first game. 224 for Allison. Needs a spare to shoot at a 200 game. He gets a spare. Still no opens. I bet even now, as he gets set for his final delivery in this game, he's thinking about that 8-pin. Trying for 200 on the nose, and he gets it. 233 and 200, 433. Chance for Glenn Allison to grab the lead here. But no matter what he does, we're going to have a very close match at the start of the third game. Glenn has had 4 strikes so far. Outside. 1, 2, 4,
Brunswick
8.
pin finder will show the 1, 2, 4, 8, and that's where it's so valuable because it actually remains lighted, and a lot of times a bowler don't realize that that 8 pin is behind there. And Glenn will actually throw a Brooklyn strike here to cover that rather spare, not a strike.
And the ball drove in there nicely for him and gave him the spare. So he has 183, and a hit will give him 203 and cut the lead to 6 pins on the part of Al Thompson.
A match like this, you can't stop for even a drink of water, Jack, or else one will go by the other.
Glenn bowls 2-0.
Oh!
200 for each. So Al Thompson, 233, 200, 433. Glenn Allison, 224, 200, 424. The 9-pin advantage still remains. Before the start of the third game on Top Star Bowling, a chance to visit with Bob Stewart, athletic director of St. Louis University. Bob, I'm aware of the fact that basketball and soccer are big sports at the university. What about bowling?
Well, there's a great deal of bowling, as you probably would realize, Jack. With 9,000 students there, they use all the lanes around there and have competition in their mirror leagues. And to the basketball players, when they go on trips, they don't pick their motels for their comfort. They look for the bowling lanes when they're not playing.
And you don't protest the basketball players engaging in this sport, huh?
No, I think there's a great deal of similarity, concentration, relaxing at the last moment, and be able to hit that right pin. Same way.
You think we'll ever have intercollegiate competition in bowling?
Jack, I look forward to having intercollegiate competition in bowling. I think there's a great deal of agitation for it. They had started in billiards. I know at Michigan State they had a billiard tournament involving a lot of colleges and universities, and I can see no reason why they wouldn't have competition in bowling.
Why don't you get it started? You got that college baseball, professional baseball tie-up going. Why don't you do it with bowling?
Well, Whittier Harris has promised me he'll come over and coach us if we get started, and if he'll do that, why, we'll start intercollegiate bowling.
Thanks for the visit, Bob.
Thank you, Jack Buck.
Bob Stewart, our guest here at the Marlboro Lanes. Thank you, buddy. Our first game ended with Al Thompson out in front by 9 pins, and that's where we stand right now as the third game gets underway. Still leading is Al Thompson up on 21. He lost the groove. He had only 3 strikes in that second game after getting 7 in the opener, and he's shaking his head. What was that all about? He didn't think he had one. He started to get disgusted with himself. I suppose he thought the ball was going to run, but it didn't. It stayed right there for him, and he got the big hit. $1,000 to the winner, $500 to the loser. Glenn Allison. Oops. That was about like his last delivery over there, wasn't it?
It just about made it, Jack, and whenever you get a half-pocket hit like that, you leave the 2-4-5. But like you mentioned, it looked like it went about over the same arrow on the previous pitch that he had.
So he has the 2-4-5 to shoot at. And it'll be an important second frame for Al Thompson. We still have had no opens. These two, I remind you, are shooting at a high series. I was wondering why Ray Bluth was here, and I saw him in the back of the lanes over here. You know.
What's he here for?
Well, he's here to see if anybody beats that 705 or 268.
Oh.
He came over in a limousine, too. Allison trying to get on a strike. Oh, he's off the beam and almost had the split, left the 6-pin.
You're speaking about Bluth. Actually, it's interesting. You know a fellow by the name of Musil?
Mm-hmm.
It's got something to do with baseball. They both go to the same bank.
Something to do with bowling, too. Stan Musial has bowling lanes here. Some Brunswick lanes in St. Louis. There's the spare for Allison. Al Thompson didn't bounce right up. He acted as if he were really contemplating the situation. He's very deliberate as he gets to the approach. He started with a strike. He started with a 9-pin lead. Boy, he really threw that ball hard, Whitey. I think he had more speed on that than he's had in any of his previous pitches.
I think Al is just one amongst the young pros, Jack, and he naturally would start to build up speed now as we're getting down into this last stretch. The excitement's out there. They're not fooling around.
6-10. And it's fair to go with a strike. I mentioned that this is the last show on a particular segment where they would have an opportunity to beat Ray Bluth's high single of 268 and high series of 705 for the King Louis shirt money, totaling $2,500. And that money will be available for the next series. On the nose, he's had a few getaways. I don't know what perturbed Al up there. He started to go and then he stopped.
I think he's, like you see these athletes so often, Jack, they build themselves inwardly, you know, and then they take that breath or something. If they're not ready, why, it's just too bad. If they do go, they've learned through experience that they throw a bad pitch.
Al gets a spare.
He works harder after he throws the ball than when he gets up to the foul line.
A very graceful performer with a delivery. Thompson has 39 through the second with a spare up. Glenn Allison trailing by 9 pins, plugging away, trying to do something about it. You know, he'll have to get on a strike in order to do so. There he is. He's back in there. The advantage swings to the defender. Allison, who defeated Ray Bluth and Buzz Fazio, with series of 692 and 682. Is that a double? On the nose, and there's the first split of our match. And what a very inopportune moment for that, with that strike he had working. He shakes his head. That may have done it. He's still kicking around up there. That ball you just saw may have cost Mr. Allison a few $1,000s. Goes for the 2 pins. Had the 4-6-10, takes down the 6-10. That's the first split, the first open. And Glenn has 67 through the 4th frame, and Al Thompson with a chance to build his lead. He has a spare up. He's in the 4th frame. Is he there with a strike? Big strike. Big strike for Al Thompson. It's his second strike of this game. He has a definite advantage in the match now.
Which way you think he's going? Up, down, or to the side, Jack? He started bouncing up and down that time.
Strike here would be worth a lot to him. Hey, 10-pin as he ends on both knees. He's really laboring out there, isn't he?
Is that part of that isometric exercise?
He's in good shape. But all he has to do at this point, and up until the time Glenn Allison starts to string some strikes together, is to continue to mark. We're talking about Thompson, who's shooting the 10-pin. There it is. A sly grin as he comes back to the bench. He has picked up an additional 12 pins, giving him a lead of 21 in the match. This is the 5th frame for Glenn Allison. He really needs a strike. He had a strike in the third frame, then the split, and then the strike. And so Al Thompson has 79 through the fourth with a spare up. Glenn Allison 67 in the fourth with a strike up.
Just noticing, Jack, he stepped back from the approach, just shaking his head, trying to find out what board he was going to stand on, because he remembered the last few bad pitches he's had on that lane.
A double here. There, with that hit. They're both on their knees. Well, everybody in the place is chuckling about that one, except
Al Thompson.
he said, how in the world did he get that?
I thought we were about ready to, what is it, when you face to the west?
So Al needs a strike of his own. He really whipped that one out. Well, that's the way to answer a challenge, isn't it? Out there and do it yourself, and he strikes in the sixth frame. Now who's going to string them together? That double cut the lead down to 11 pins. Thompson's still in the lead, as he was at the end of the first game, and at the end of the second. Allison has never been there.
Look at that determination, Jack. He's just really looking at that spot. He's really going to hit it.
He has the strike up, and he has a double. You see that 7-pin come back and get the 4-pin? He got the reverse action that time for his double. And then Glenn Allison quickly bounced to his feet, and he's ready to go. Who's going to string them together here? Boy, every ball's so important now. This is Allison's 7th frame. He's looking for 3 in a row. And he gets it. He barely got up there, but once he got there, that ball drove through for him. That's 3 for him. This one's going right down to ye old wire. They're going to the whip at this point. A lot of money riding in the balance here. Looking for 4, and he's carried again. 4 in a row. Al Thompson has to continue to strike now. He has to strike.
Well, it looks like, Jack, that's what they're here for, to knock him down. And it'll be interesting to study Al Thompson and see the time he takes to get up on the approach. He's ready.
You don't have to use your imagination much to say that each ball delivered here is worth $1,000. He has 2. He has 3. He's coming right back. I tell you, his hits have been a little better than Glenn's, too. He has had 5 strikes in this game, plus 2 10-pins that he left. Now he's in the 9th frame. He can swing the pressure back on Allison. Has 3, looking for 4, got it out, jumped up and down, got the strike with a little bit of late 10-pin action. He's going to have a coronary here. That's 4 for him. He could go on to 249, and Allison could go on to 247. Allison has to strike because Mr. Thompson really wants to win this. Thompson has already struck in the 9th frame. Allison is bowling in the 9th. And the 4-pin stops his string. He stays up there at the line.
That's for sure, Jack. He hit for it. I mean, there's no doubt about it. How you explain a 4-pin like that? That's what happens in this game. It was a terrific hit.
And now going for the spare in the 9th. And the 10th frame will still determine, and Glenn is studying the scoreboard to see if he still has a chance to catch his opponent. Glenn could have 226. He still has a chance here. But he needs strikes. And the 7-pin. I guess that's it, huh, Whitey?
Yes, Jack, I think even with Al, unless no one wants to wish anyone any bad luck, he'd have to come up with the biggest split possible in the game and leave some of those pins, so...
There's a spare in the 10th frame for Allison. Now he comes back with 205 with a hit. He ends with 204. 214, excuse me. 214 for Glenn Allison. 638 series. Now, Al Thompson up. He wants to go out in a blaze of glory here. He's got 4 going for him. He's in the 10th frame. And pretty close on the nose. Left the 6-pin.
It was pretty close to what we were talking about. There would have been some rapid figuring here, Jack, if he did get the big split, and that was the only way that Glenn Allison could have won on the figuring out the count. Now all Al has to do is pick this spare.
He does. So a spare in the 10th frame. 228 with a 10 count here. 23-pin victory. Al Thompson, 226, but he doesn't care. 226, and he has won the match. Glenn Allison, in his last game, had a 214 and a total of 638. Al Thompson, 225 and a 658, Whitey?
Yes,
A 658 total. $658, $638 were the totals, and this week's Top Star Bowling is completed except for Money Money. And it is Money Money time. We have a very pretty young lady who's a graduate of the John Robert Powers School of Modeling and the Pat Allen Agency here in St. Louis, Jenny Cutler. And she carries out a couple of the checks. Jenny?
Glenn Allison, for you, the loser's check, which is $500. I certainly enjoyed watching you bowl. It was a thrilling match.
Thank you.
That doesn't sound too good, that loser's share, does it, Glenn?
Well, it isn't bad. 500, and I already had 2,000, so 2,500 is pretty good.
Jenny?
And for you, Al, the winner's check of $1,000. Congratulations.
Thank you very much, Jenny Cutler. How long were you thinking about that 8-pin?
I'm still thinking about it.
Despite the win, huh?
Now, when Glenn threw that strike in the, I believe about the 5th or 6th frame, where about 8 pins toppled, while I was a little scared then, Jack.
Uh-huh. You talking about the one he hit on the nose?
Yes, that made him 4 strikes, and,
You thought something was happening.
right.
And it almost did. It's quite a match. Gentlemen, we enjoyed watching you.
Thank
Glenn,
you, Jack.
thank you.
Thank you.
And to you,
Jack.
Al, congratulations.
Thank you.
Couple of fine ones. Glenn Allison, Al Thompson. Despite their fine bowling, they failed to dislodge the leader for the King Louis shirt money for $1,000 for the high game and $1,500 for the high series. So Ray Bluth, I told you he was on hand here. Here he is, Ray Bluth, to collect the money.
Glad to be back, Jack.
Ray, I suppose you figure one more day in the bank, a little extra interest, huh?
Well, after I lost to Glenn, I thought for sure that he'd probably beat my 700 total. And after watching Glenn, Al, I'm glad the 13 weeks are over.
This is $1,000 for the 268. Here's 50. He wants to trade checks. Here's $1,500 for the high series. Who is this, Ray?
She follows me around.
Who is it?
This is my wife. This is Carol Bluth.
Hello, Carol.
I thought we could eliminate the middleman here and just hand the check right to me.
The middleman. Shall I?
I guess so. She's going to get it anyway. So
Let me see. You won 4 times. That's 4,000. You lost once. That's 45. And 2,500. How much is that, Carol?
Well, 75?
Oh, she's so nervous she can't even add them up.
Jack.
I know, Jack. It's 7,000.
That means you got to come up with 500 more. She's not satisfied.
Well, she'll be happy with it.
I know she will be. Carol, nice to see you.
Thank you, Jack.
Ray, congratulations.
Thank you, and be back next year.
One of the best, Ray Bluth and Mrs. Bluth. And next week, we'll be back once again at the Marlboro Lanes, the village of Marlboro, southwest of the city of St. Louis, the gateway to the west. Jack Buck speaking for Whitey Harris. And we say for Top Star Bowling, thanks for your time this time. Till next time, so long. Top Star Bowling has been presented by by Brunswick, the #1 name in bowling. Top Star Bowling is sanctioned by the American Bowling Congress.